Comrades and friends, welcome to the program Global Weekly News, serial number 147. First item, displacement of Afghanistan refugees from Pakistan. Between 5 to 8 lakh Afghanistan refugees have been expelled from Pakistan since 2023 September in complete violation of their rights and despite the concerns about their safety under Taliban rule. Pakistan Shehbaz Sharif government had refused to stop its forceful displacement of Afghan refugees despite repeated calls from the UN Refugee Agency and other human rights groups in the country to respect the rights and safety concerns. Thousands of Afghanistan refugees have been arrested and deported since a new round of forceful expulsion of millions of refugees began earlier this month. As per the orders served by the Pakistan government on 7th March, the March 7 order had set a deadline for all Afghan refugees, calling them illegal foreigners, to leave the country voluntarily by 31st August. It later extended the deadline by 2 more days due to the Ramzan holidays. Some human rights groups approached the court in Peshawar. On 14th April, the court ordered a halt to the deportation of Afghanistanis holding proof of registration cards until June 30. Pakistan is not a signatory of the 1951 Refugee Convention. Over 20,000 Afghanistan refugees have been sent back so far in the current round, which began on 3rd April. Afghanistan refugees have been living in Pakistan for decades due to prolonged wars in Afghanistan since the late 1970s. Most of them have become part of Pakistan's society, with multiple generations born and raised there in Pakistan. 30 lakhs Afghanistans are living in Pakistan for decades. Out of them, 21.8 lakhs were registered with the UN Refugee Agency. 15,000 Afghans are waiting for repatriation to US as per the arrangements made following American withdrawal from Afghanistan in August 2021. Well, second item, comrades, electoral fraud in Ecuador. On 9th February, first round of presidential elections took place in South American country Ecuador. The incumbent president Daniel Noboa, the rightist, got 44.17% votes only. The opponent leftist Luisa Gonzalez got 44.07% votes. Since none got more than 50% votes, second round of elections took place on 13th April for president's post. Luisa Gonzalez got the support of another left candidate who got 5.25% votes in the first round of elections. He is from indigenous communities. Luisa Gonzalez should have won as the president, but due to the electoral fraud, Daniel Noboa got 55.63% votes and declared elected by the National Electoral Council. During the second round, Noboa should have resigned the president's post. In 11 polls, in 11 statistical investigations, even in that of the government itself, they announced Gonzalez win. Gonzalez denounced the electoral fraud by Noboa. The Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, a platform that brings together hundreds of organizations from 25 countries in the region, and the International People's Assembly, are a global network of people's organizations from all 5 continents, issued a joint statement on 14th April denouncing the election results in Ecuador. Third item, comrades, we go to Thailand. Demo demanding justice in Thailand. On 10th April, scores of people gathered at different places in Bangkok, Thailand, to commemorate the 15th anniversary of the April-May killings of pro-democracy protesters by the security forces. The gatherings demanded justice for the people who were killed during the protest and amnesty for all people, for all peaceful political expressions in the country. In April and May 2010, dozens of pro-democracy protesters led by the United Front for the Democracy Against Dictatorship, also known as the Red Shirts, were killed and hundreds others were injured by the security forces in Bangkok. The protesters were opposed to the then government led by Abhishek Vejajiva, claiming it had ties with the military and was part of the 2006 coup against the democratically elected government. They were demanding dissolution of the parliament and fresh elections in the country. The gathering also expressed the support for bills being discussed in the Thai parliament, now proposing amnesty for all peaceful political expressions in the country. One of the bills also proposes to amend the Royal Defamation Law. The Workers' Union issued a statement on the occasion, reiterating its commitment to ensure accountability in the killings of pro-democracy protesters. The union underlined its determination to make sure all those responsible for the killings of pro-democracy protesters are not allowed to walk free. The progressive and pro-democracy movements fear that the amnesty law might pass without including Section 122 or royal defamation, making it meaningless. Section 122 of Thailand's criminal codes deals with the royal defamation. Under the law, criticism of the government can be termed as criticism of the king, and the person can be sent to jail for 3 to 15 years. The Lawyers for Human Rights, a member of the civil society groups which has submitted the draft bill to Parliament, claimed that the bill, if accepted, would provide relief to over 5,000 citizens prosecuted for exercising the right to freedom of speech and expression since the 2006 coup. Analyzing the overall situation, the Workers' Union claimed that the votes in Parliament might not be enough, hinting at a larger fight. Fourth item, comrades, the new Bandung spirit is about industrial development. In 1955, ASEAN African Conference was held in Bandung, Indonesia. That conference generated what was then called the Bandung spirit, a sensibility for the need of the newly freed countries from colonialism to set their own path of development. The communique that was published on the last day of the 1955 Bandung Conference called for the promotion of mutual interests and cooperation. The Bandung process created two institutions to carry forward their principle. The Non-Aligned Movement formed in 1861 and the UN Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, formed in 1864. While the Non-Aligned Movement was pushed for an agenda of peace against the Cold War, the UNCTAD, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, tried to forge an agenda for development. These two terms, peace and development, frame the Bandung spirit. Whereas the advancement of both had been curtailed for the poorer countries of the world over the past 7 decades, the emergence of the BRICS Plus Forum revives some of that hope from 1955. In January 2025, this year, Indonesia, the world's 4th largest country by population of 28.2 crores, joined BRICS Plus as a member. Comrades, fifth item, 4th Dilemmas of Humanity Conference in Brazil. 4th Dilemmas of Humanity Conference was held in Brazil on April 7 to 10. The following economic agenda for transformation based on the proposals discussed throughout the panels. The economic agenda is as follows. 1. Economic policies aligned with the human needs and respect for nature. 2nd, overcoming inequality and promoting non-dependent, self-reliant development. 3rd, a strategy of comprehensive development. 4th, conditions of work and production for a new model of industrialization. 5th, sovereignty over natural resources. 6th, digital sovereignty and technological infrastructure. 7th, integration of new partners and trade systems in the global south. 8th, a new financial architecture. And 9th, coherent fiscal and monetary policy. The old world is decomposing. It is therefore urgent to find solutions. There is once again a threat from US imperialism, whether due to the decline of the US economy, its military stance, or monetary issues, with the possibilities of de-dollarization, as in the 1970s. When imperialism feels cornered, it does not play defensively, but goes on the offensive. We need to reconcile the need to rebuild a national and international project that puts life at the center, not capitalist accumulation. Pedro Stadil, economist and founder of the Landless Workers Movement of Brazil, closed his speech by saying, "We must try to build a new model of popular development. What matters is that we must develop ideas and debates that go beyond capitalism, patriarchy, racism, colonialism, and large estates. Because in seeking to build alternatives, there is no other path than having socialism as our horizon." 6th item, comrades, China strengthens economic ties in Asia. Chinese President Xi Jinping arrived in Malaysia on 15th April for a highly anticipated state visit. With this move, Xi seeks to promote China as a reliable alternative to an US escalating trade war. The Chinese leader was greeted by Prime Minister of Malaysia, Anwar Ibrahim, at Kuala Lumpur Airport. Both will witness the signing of a range of bilateral agreements, according to the Malaysian Foreign Ministry. China and Malaysia celebrated their 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations last year and enjoy robust trade ties, though Malaysia has partial claims to parts of South China Sea. China has remained Malaysia's largest trading partner for the last 16 consecutive years, with the total trade between the two countries accounting for 16.8% of Malaysia's global trade last year. Xi Jinping visited Vietnam on 14th April. The two nations said they will jointly oppose hegemony and power politics and jointly oppose unilateralism in all forms. China and Vietnam signed 45 cooperation agreements on 14th April, including on supply chains, artificial intelligence, joint maritime patrols, and railway development. 7th item, comrades, Argentina takes on $2,000 crore IMF loan. In 2011, the then Cristina Fernandez government of Argentina prevented the uncontrolled outflow of foreign currency. Devaluation of the local peso was prevented. In a national televised broadcast on 11th April of this year, the now Argentine President Javier Milei announced that a series of restrictions on the purchase of dollars will be lifted. The massive foreign investment Milei promised is yet to arrive. Before assuming the presidency, economist Javier Milei insulted and expressed his distrust for the IMF. The IMF is a perverse institution. It is a creation of White, a Russian spy, and Keynes. It should not exist. That's what he said before becoming president. But now, the Argentine president, Javier Milei, announced that the IMF and the World Bank would lend a record amount of money to Argentina, 2,000 crores US dollars. Argentina accumulated a record debt of more than 4,000 crore dollars with the IMF. Javier Milei emphasized that the loan was given due to the policies, reduction of the state, liberalization of the economy, privatization of public companies, and reduction of inflation. Milei government has promised to the IMF that the retirement system will be reformed by 2026 and a labor reform, a more aggressive program of labor flexibilization. Spanish Revolution Journal states that the IMF disbursement is not intended to lower inflation. It is not a bailout. It is a colonial mortgage. Former president said hard times for the people of Argentina are ahead, and the hard times will not end until 2027 when the elections for the president will take place. Comrades and friends, 8th item, NUMSA gears up for National Bargaining Conference. The National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, NUMSA, convened its National Bargaining Conference from 24th March to 26th March 2025. The forum brought together delegates from all its negotiating sectors: auto, motor, plastics, in-house agreement, aviation, and mining, to set the tone for the union's collective bargaining agenda. The conference reiterated NUMSA's commitment to not only fight for improved wages, benefits, and conditions of employment, but also to address the structural crisis facing South Africa's manufacturing sector. NUMSA declared that this year's National Bargaining Conference is about preparing the union, its soft stewards, that is cadres and membership, to strategically intervene in shaping an inclusive economy through industrialization and job creation. Among the attendees were Minister of Trade, Minister for Energy, and Minister of Transport of South Africa. NUMSA Secretary General Irwin Jim emphasized the urgency of economic transformation through industrialization. 9th item, comrades. 7 killed in Yemen by US airstrikes. At least 7 people were killed and dozens of others, including women and children, were wounded in US airstrikes that targeted a ceramic factory near the Yemeni capital Sana'a on 13th April. 2 other US airstrikes targeted a district in North Yemen on the same day. The Houthis of Yemen, or the Ansar Allah, Houthis known as Ansar Allah of Yemen, announced on 13th April that the Yemeni armed forces shot down a US drone. The fierce and ongoing US campaign on Yemen began in mid-March after the Houthis resumed the ban on Israeli vessels in the Red Sea in retaliation for Gaza's blockade by Israel. Yemeni rocketry forces carried out a special military operation against the Israeli targets using 2 ballistic missiles. The Yemeni official warned the US and Israel that Yemen will not retreat from its firm stance in supporting the oppressed Palestinian people. 10th item, comrades, we go to Sudan of Africa, where the people are put to lots of miseries and tragedies. Former allies, former friends ruling together in a military junta, the Sudan Armed Forces, SAF, and the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, fell apart as their internal power struggles escalated into fighting, hurling Sudan into a civil war 2 years ago on 15th April 2023. The war has since killed an estimated 1.5 lakh people and displaced over 1.2 crores. In Sudan's Jamjam camp, an estimated 7.5 lakhs displaced people have taken refuge. On 14th and 11th April, the Rapid Support Forces troops broke into the Jamjam camp, burnt hundreds of their makeshift shelters, also torched the famine-struck camp's central market and its community kitchen, burning the women inside alive, before attacking the last of the camp's national medical post and killing all its staff. Sudan's tragedies are really massive. Last item, comrades. CELAC proposes greater unity. After 3 days of intense meetings at the highest diplomatic level, the fourth summit of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, which brings together the 33 countries of the region, concluded in Honduras. The high-level meeting concluded with a joint agreement signed by 30 of the 33 member states. Among the most important points of the agreement are committing to strengthening CELAC as a method for political concentration among member countries, highlighting Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace, and adhering to the principles of the UN Charter, international law, democracy, multilateralism, human rights, self-determination of countries, sovereignty and territorial integrity. Rejecting unilateral coercive measures contrary to international law, including those of a commercial nature. To join efforts towards ensuring that someone from Latin America and the Caribbean region becomes the next Secretary General of the United Nations. Supporting Haiti and endorsing the support of each of the countries according to their capacities to establish an environment of human security that allows for the normalization of the political, economic and social situation with a comprehensive development approach in Haiti. Presidents of Brazil, Cuba, Colombia, Mexico emphasized the unity of the Latin American Caribbean region. Thank you, comrades. Lal Salam. See you next week.